Yeah, can we do it this way? I haven't heard back from my colleagues. As usual.
No habrá nadie en el mundo que cure la herida que dejó tu orgullo. Yo no comprendo que tú me lastimes con todo, todo y el amor que tú me diste. Cuando tú volvieras, pensé en cantarte coplas viejas, esas que hablan de amores y de sufrimiento. Cuando tú vuelvas, niña, te como besos y volaremos alto, donde las nubes van despacio. Despacio va mi boca sobre tu cuerpo, tan lento que seguro se para el tiempo. No habrá nadie en el mundo que cure la herida que dejó tu orgullo. Yo no comprendo que tú me lastimes con todo, todo y el amor que tú me diste. No habrá nadie en el mundo que cure la herida que dejó tu orgullo. Yo no comprendo que tú me lastimes con todo, todo.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. Welcome to the week 3 of the Sendai Framework Monitoring and Disaster Loss Accounting Training of Trainers. Today will be the second coffee data session that we are holding after the one that we had last Tuesday, which, as you would recall, was more dedicated to the technical aspects of the disinventor establishment of the database itself. Today's session will be moderated by our colleague Carlos from our Regional Office for Americas and Caribbean, and we have two colleagues, especially a very warm welcome to Marco Musaba, who's joining us from Chima Foundation, which is a very old partner of ours who have got dedicated work on disaster loss accounting in a number of regions, especially in Africa. And today he will share with us some of those experiences there and what the disaster loss data and accounts are telling us. Thereafter, on popular demand, especially this one goes back to you, Abdullah, we are bringing back a session, especially on a live demonstration of what we saw last week on the disaster-related not disaster related, the disinventor's establishment, the technical aspects of that will be shown live by our colleague again, Mario Yandar, who presented last week. So this is on the request of colleagues to have a technical session on that. So first we'll have Marco, and then Mario will be taking us through that particular technical session. I hand over to today's moderator, Carlos. Carlos, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul, and hello to everyone. Good morning here in Panama. Good afternoon for the people that are on the other side of the hemisphere. And I want to thank you, Marco and Mario, that will be giving us their experience and sharing a lot of knowledge that they have on the use of disaster loss databases and also specifically this inventory. I wanted just to remind that all the work we are doing with disaster loss databases, and one of the ideas of the training is to really understand why we need lost information systems. Desinventar and the different database now. We need to understand the risk-based evidence. We need to really have an idea of the vulnerability, capacity, exposure, and try to characterize all the hazards we are facing in different regions of the world. The idea is collect data, analyze and manage all this information, taking into account different contexts, the economic situation, the social situation, the health education, the environmental, all these idea in a systemic approach, and to have a better idea on how to address these issues and how to better inform decision-making processes. And on this work, and it's part of the experience that Marco will present today from the work he has been doing with UNDRR and CIMA Foundation, working with global and national databases and trying to highlight the common issues and questions we can have when working, where we were facing a real experience in building a database, the source of information, the verification, the credibility that they have, the level of disaggregation that the database could have or might have. So we're trying to use this study case as in a way to learn more about how the things happen in the real life where we will be implementing a disaster role database initiative. I will now open the floor and welcome Mr. Marco Masavo from CIMA Foundation that have been working with UNDRR, and he will present his experience in 2 different countries in Europe, I think so. So the floor is yours, Marco. Welcome.
Thank you, Carlos, and thank you, Mario. And it is a big pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to share this experience and hear also some feedback from you. Now, it is always the most difficult task, which is sharing the screen. Okay. So it is, can you see my screen now?
Yes, thank you so much. It's clear.
Okay, super. Okay. So the first things that actually I try to do is to change the title a little bit. And I took this title, Coffee with Desinventar. So trying to bring some of the experience that we had in CIMA. CIMA is a research foundation working with disaster risk management and trying to bridge these 2 communities of the scientific community and the practitioner, the policymaking community. And we also have a technology foundation working more on technology for disaster risk management. I'm a program director in CIMA working on capacity development for DRR and civil protection in Europe and more recently in Africa as well. So I will try to point out 3 main topics, bringing some of the example. First is global versus national database, and what was our experience in that, and try to reflect why it is important to collect a database that are at national level or eventually even at local level. The second one will be working with historical database. So we know that the important things is to have a lot of data if we want to extract information that can be then used for policy strategies or planning. And the third topic that I want to touch are guidelines and procedure. So as you can see, I mean, all these 3 topics can be pretty much large. So I will try to just highlight a few points that I think are important to reflect on. And if we will have time during this coffee with Desinventar, or coffee with data, we can further elaborate in that. So I don't know if this slide has been already shown to you in previous presentation, but this one is actually coming from the GARD, the Global Assessment Report. I'm sure you all are aware, and compare the losses in economic terms from two databases. One is a famous database, a global database, which is called MDAT, and the second one are national databases from this inventory. As you can see, one of the conclusions, this one was back in 2011, is that direct losses are at least 50% more than one registered internationally. So if we consider the sum of losses recorded in national database, and we compare with the sum of losses compared in global database, statistically, it is about 50%. So this one means that national database definitely has more information in that, and that some of the disaster that are building up the total cost of disaster in the country are not detected in global database. So that's one of the reasons why national database are also important. This is another example for one project that we have in Montenegro. Those are the profile for Montenegro. Montenegro is a small country in the Western Balkans in Europe. This is the data from the MDAT, so the global database. You can see in total, this one is from a couple of years ago. In total, they have 6 disasters in total. When we did the implementation of this inventory, Montenegro, as I said, is a small country. And we did this implementation actually with the Ministry of Emergency in Montenegro, the Disaster Risk Management Authority of Montenegro. The number of events that were registered for a similar time period was 120. So as you can see immediately, is 6 record in a global data set and 120 record in a national data set. But also here is, if we do a disaggregation in terms of hazard, you see the river and flood is the first, and you have flash flood. But when you go to the national database, you can see that the composition of disaster in the country is much more diverse. We have earthquake, we have thunderstorm, we have fire, we have accidents, we have drought, and so on. And more importantly, also, when we look at the national database, we can also have the spatial distribution of disasters in the country, which is something that is rarely available on global dataset. I don't want to say that national datasets are always better than global dataset, because there is a big value in the global dataset as well, meaning that data can be compared across different countries. But usually, national datasets have much more information included in that. This is another example, another disinventory implementation that we did with the General Directorate of Civil Emergency in Albania. And this one is, they used this inventory from 2013. As you can see, this one is from data from this inventory and data from MDAT. Number of events that were totally recorded is about 4,300 in Albania, compared to the global one that was 223. But also, if we want to go some forensic and some statistic of the disasters, you will see that if we look at the disinventory database, it's only the hazard with the highest mortalities is a earthquake, while from the global dataset is extreme temperature. So you can see the picture can change very much. If we look at this inventory database, the most frequent events are forest fire, while if we look at the global dataset, in this case, are floods. So you can see that depending on the information that you can you can use, you can find a different picture of the risk profile of the country. So that's why it's important to collect the national data set, because they have a lot of information and those are the information that will give us the a more comprehensive picture of the national risk profile. This is just so one thing to reflect. So the global versus the national data set. I just want to reemphasize that one of the reasons that this inventory is so successful, I would say, in the world is because of this, because it systematically supports the country to collect data in one unique database. And so those information merge and becomes more available to decision makers. And those information are important because there is a big value in this information. The other point that I would like to reflect with you today is working with the historical database. I just showed two examples, one from Montenegro, one from Albania. I could show also other examples from Europe, but also from Africa, where we never work on this inventory database in Africa, but hear from the colleagues that they have same experience. So one of the challenge is in populating the system. So once we decide and the country decide to collect information, to register information on this inventory, there is two basically big line of work. One is what we do after the decision. So for the disaster that will occur in the future. So we can we can say that this is the methodology that I want to do. And from now on, I will collect the disaster data based on this methodology. But what about the past? And this is where we are more interested in. And in the past, we have several challenges, I will say. Data are usually sparse among different institutions. Data can be very homogeneous, and they can have different temporal coverage. So for some period of time, we use some source of data, and then maybe in the country you had the civil war, and so there were no any more state archive, and then you can rely only on newspapers. And then you have another source of data for the other time of the history. And I will say that most of the time, what we have is paper. And definitely this one was our experience in implementing this inventory in Albania. And this one was actually one of the first partnership that we had with the UNDRR on this topic of this inventory and supporting country to implement this inventory in around the world. So this is a summary of the source of data depending in Albania, depending on the time. So we have a huge database in the Institute of Hydrometeorology that covered the period of 100 from 18 basically to 2000. And then, so this is pretty much uniform, but usually in the hydrometeorological services, you don't find a lot of information on the impacts, but you find a lot of information on the hazard. But for the other source of data, so we use here the State Archive from 1944, 1945 to 1986. Then, as you can see, here is the lack of data. We have a big hole. This one was the time of the civil war in Albania. And then we have the National Library, where there was still a problem in recording information at that times. And then they start from 2000 with the daily report in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. And from 1990, there is also a Ministry of Internal Affairs that was compensating the people that has been impacted by disaster. So we have good data from 1999 to 2013. I just want to give you a little bit more concrete example of this, given that we are in this session with coffee with data and how data sometimes can look like. Those are sometimes the data, how they look like. So those were the hard copy from the Ministry of Internal Affairs in the National Operations Center. So those are all paper format of data on the impact of disaster. This is the form that was stored before this inventory was implemented in the country. Or this is another example again from Albania in the National Library. So it's the News Gazette, which was the only source of information during the time of the Civil War. So the National Library has this source of information. Of course, so we collected also this information for that time. There were no other possible means for this. And this is a very unique for me. This one, it was during the State Archive, so back from the 45 to the 90. Those information were recorded in microfilms. So our data collectors went to the National Archive, they look for these microfilms. Each of the microfilm you have to put in this special machine to read through, and those information were there. And this is the way that this information was stored. And during the inventory implementation, this information were recorded into this inventory database. And this one is one of the results. So once we collected all this information, again in partnership with the General Directorate of Civil Emergency, this database is set up. You can go through this this database at this website, but also at disinventar.net. So you have now a spatial distribution of events. And there is also a publication that we make, a historical collection of disaster loss data in Albania. I leave you the link here, but it's in Prevention Web. And the collection of this data allow us to do some elaboration of these information and have a risk profile for Albania. So those are, for instance, kind of information that we've been able to derive. So average events per year, maximum events per year, average damage from crops, maximum damage crops for here for the different hazards. So from this information, we were able to derive a first risk profile, multi-hazard risk profile for the five main hazards for Albania. And this one was done with this approach to collect the information. Different approach has been used in Montenegro, which is a neighboring country of Albania, and Serbia as well. In those countries, the data were collected directly by the municipality. And so in the municipality, again, in paper format, but those information were collected at the municipality level. So during the implementation of this inventory, those information were then recorded in this inventory system. So a different approach because it depends on the way how this data are collected from in the country. We also have a similar experience in Serbia. And in that case, the main driver for the collection of data was the statistical office that again collect the information through municipality. But there are also other cases. But this is the important, I mean, to collect this information, depending on the source, to review this information, to check for consistency, and to systematically put on a unique database. And let me just talk on the third point. And the second point, I just want to highlight, as I mentioned, what are the possibility of really collecting historical information on database. It can be very diverse in that regards. But for this experience that we have, now why I point out guidelines and procedure here as a third topics. Well, you can imagine what this picture may represent, I would like to try to be a little bit provocative here. It is garbage, well, the famous sentence, garbage in and garbage out, that is used in modeling. I mean, I don't fully agree with this sentence, but I think it's helped me to make this, this reflection. So usually what we have as in, so usually as input in the decision-making process, we want data, information, evidence. This is what we have. And based on this data, this information, and this evidence, we want to take decision. So why I'm saying that this one is a little bit provocative is that if we don't have good data, and good information, and good evidence to base our decision, of course, our decision will not be, will not bring us on the right path. So if we use wrong data, we will come to wrong conclusion, and we will take wrong decisions, strategies, and policies as well. And that's the reason why, the ultimate reason why we need to have good data, good information, and good evidence to base our decision, strategy, and policy. So I will say that, frankly speaking, I don't know. I don't think that the way to improve the quality of data is rocket science. It is something difficult to achieve, for sure, but it needs really more clear procedure and guides on how to collect this data. So I have selected 3 points just to demonstrate what I think is important to improve the quality of data. I think the first is the forms. So I have a standard forms to record the data. The second one is a process, a clear data collection process, eventually formalized in guideline. I think this one is very important. So how the data are collected, who is responsible for the first collection in the municipality, how this information then passes through the central level, how this one are collected and registered. And then terminology and definition. I know that this one is trivial, but in some countries, even the definition of disasters, I mean, in many countries, even the definition of the disasters is not unique. In some of the countries, we have the experience in Belarus and in East Europe. We don't have a disaster as a definition. We have emergency situation, for instance, but in any case, but even if we look at the people affected, is something that is need to be agreed. But even if we look at the definition of damaged and losses, Sendai, which is not the same of the definition of damage and losses that we have in Dallas. So in Dallas methodology, so it is important to have terminology and definition. So what we did in a partnership with the UNDRR, and this one was in a project that we have implemented in the Western Balkans. Again, this is the case of Montenegro. We support the Civil Protection of Montenegro, Disaster Risk Management Authority of Montenegro, to develop a methodological manual on how to use this inventory, how the data should be recorded into the system in this inventory. And this one was going hand to hand with the forms. And one very important thing on the forms is that we need to anchor the form to 2 things. One is the local legislation and the Sendai framework. This is a big opportunity to have the Sendai framework completely integrated into the local legislation. The local legislation is important because we cannot, completely modify the legislation is in place. We need to build on the ongoing process. For instance, in this case, Montenegro used to have the system based on local commission. So there are local commission that do the estimation of the losses. So let's work with the local commission and try to integrate the Sendai requirement. So that those data are collected in terms of number of deaths, but also disaggregated on female, male, or young people, people with disability, people below the poverty level and so on. But this one need to be, this is the way that we can mainstream Sendai also in the country. The other form that I want to just highlight for this case was agriculture, and what is important, the disaggregation. So as you can see here, in terms of crop, this one in Montenegro, those were the crop that has been selected by the country, and to have those information directly collected on these disaggregation crops is because the local municipality, they were used to select information on the damages based on this disaggregation. So that's something that we need to adjust, that we need to even promote, that this Sendai framework will allow you to still continue in recording data with the disaggregation that is needed by the country, even helping to add further disaggregation. So those forms is a standard, and it was not there. Those forms was not used by the local municipality, but today in Montenegro, all the around 20 municipalities use the same forms to collect the data. And this one definitely ensured a better quality of the information that we are collecting. And the good story, I will say, I mean, the nice story is that after these big efforts of collecting historical information, we derived some statistics on the data, on the damages, some statistics in terms of million average amount of economic losses for the different sector, average amount of economic losses for the sector, agriculture for this case, or productive sector of critical infrastructure, and other sector as well. And what then the hazard analysis and so on. So from those information, from the historical event information, we were able to derive important information for policymakers. And in this case, in Montenegro, this one was also presented during a big ceremony of a big earthquake that was in Montenegro. I'm just here highlighting one of the sentences from the Minister of Interior Affairs of Montenegro, summarizing and stressing that national disaster loss data collection system represent a significant step forward to underpinning the evidence base of DRR policy and measures. So we pass this message at the ministerial level, but just a simple disinventory project implementation. But this one, because we were able to, and actually the Disaster Risk Management Authority of Montenegro was able to demonstrate that from this information, if carefully collected and analyzed, we can derive important information that can inform a different policy and DRR measure as well. So for these 3 points, I would like to conclude, point out, I would say these three conclusions. For us, that we are supporting country in the implementation of this inventory system. I think we need to be always aware on the intrinsic value inside disaster loss database and the big value there is in national disaster loss database. So, and we really need always to pass this message that collecting those information will really improve the way how we do disaster risk management. It really will provide good information for improving disaster risk management. I think this one is one important message that we also always need to pass. It goes hand to hand to the importance to report to Sendai. But I would say that Sendai framework is a kind of wake-up call that trigger important process in the country on improving of the disaster loss database system. But the most important thing is really to collect and analyze those information and use for disaster risk management. The second one is always to approach the disaster loss data collection as a process, and this process involves many aspects. It's not just one single exercise, but we need to look at the process of how those data are collected. As an example, I put the Montenegro with the local municipality, or Albania with the operations center of the state archive, but always to look at this as a process, not as one sort of solution, and also technology out there. And then the third point that I would like to also stress are the drivers. So why we collect the disaster loss database, disaster losses. Most of the drivers in my experience are actually compensation. I mean, most of the database that I've worked with are driven by compensation. So country collect those information because there is a mechanism of compensation of the citizen. So we need to find our other drivers. Compensation is one, also okay. We need to value that, but there are other drivers. Other drivers definitely is the added value that we can derive from disaster loss data, and the added value that the information that really we can obtain for this database. And we can use that for disaster risk assessment. We can use that for informing policy and so on. All the possible application of disaster loss data. And I think we will talk about that maybe again on Thursday. And with that, this is the message that I would like to leave to you. And with that, I will give the floor back to Carlos. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much, Marco, for this useful and very clear presentation. I know we have a lot to learn from Chima's experience and your experience on the implementation. This presentation has highlighted all the challenges we have on the establishment and operation of a national database, but also give us an idea of the ways to address these challenges. And one of the important things I wanted to highlight also from Marco's presentation is the linkages that exist between the operation of a national disaster loss database and the SFM framework monitoring tool. Even if there is not the only goal of this inventory, but that could help a lot on the reporting of the progress on the implementation of the SFM framework. I think now we will go to a live demonstration of the establishment and administration of this inventory that will be done by Mario Jandar. So thank you again, Marco. Really, really good presentation. And now I will open the floor for Mario for the live demonstration.
What time is it?
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon. Very
Sorry,
good.
Mario?
Yes.
Sorry, Mario, I'm interrupting. I'm very sorry. I'm just interrupting. Carlos, I was just wondering that on our chat box, we just checked. We don't have any questions sent by colleagues, but we were just wondering if there are any urgent live questions for Marco that colleagues would like to share. Just to give colleagues an opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Rahul.
Because we usually get it on the chat box that we check, but we haven't. That's why I just wanted to mention it. But if not, we can move to Mario. Thanks.
Okay, just I wanted to put the Q&A session at the end of the two presentations, but if we can take a couple of minutes now, and you can use the message box to write your question to Marco. So please do it now. If we don't have questions, we'll go to Mario's demonstrations.
Yeah, right now, if colleagues can unmute themselves and ask the question directly, or if not, we can move to Mario, and then you can, as Carlos suggested, you can keep writing the questions. So if there's no burning question from colleagues right now, we can move on to Mario then. But we just wanted to check once. Great, thanks. So you can write the questions and we'll take it on after the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. Very good. this presentation, well, this live demo is a complementation of the last week. Okay, very good. Remember that basically in our exercise, we install a local version for this inventory. In this version, I'm going to refresh this link. I have my local host, my domain, my own computer. This is my port and this is my disinventar version. In this disinventar version, I have these 5 databases now. In our previous exercise, we import, well, basically we download and import Barbados database. Now in this exercise, my idea is create a completely new database using the maps and the basic information that this inventory provide by default. So in this case, I'm going to my administration tab. We have here the option for administration. I click here in admin, and in region administration, I'm going to add a new region. That part is basically saying here, my idea is create a new country that is Portugal. Sorry for Portugal to use the example. My idea here now is create the maps directory. Here, I'm going to create Portugal. And now I select and OK. So in this exercise, I'm going to make public this database here. Remember that it should be public only here in this computer. Database type. Now I select the last time Derby, but in this exercise, I want to share that it's possible to use a different kind of database management system. This could be useful if your institution, for example, use one specific engine for use data. If you see the inventory support several of these, I'm going to use Postgres. In this case, the database connection string should be changed to a new one. However, I need to create the empty database in Postgres. I'm going here. I have prepared my Postgres and I'm going to create a database that is called Portugal. Save. Remember that in your institution, probably this system should be supported by the IT office or maybe other one. So we have Portugal, and this is my link. In this case, we need an username and a password for the connection. The main difference between Postgres, for example, or MySQL server and Derby is that Derby don't require a system to connect the information. However, the information is only remain in files, not as a services. And well, the other information should be useful if you have and save. Now, we have here in this case, in the previous case, we select the first option that is click to run initialization script. In this case, I want to create tables with event information, basic event information, and basic event data. So I click to this option. Now we create everything and I'm going to finish. Now, if I check here, I have Portugal. I don't have any disaster type, any geography or structure, only a list of causes. Of course, I don't have any map or any data here yet. Now, The idea is create the geography for this country. So I have here in my computer, Portugal have this information, geographic information for districts, level 0, concelhos, level 1, and freguesias, level 2. So we need to check, this software is called QGIS. However, it could be used any kind of software to check the geographic maps. In this case, I'm going to select quickly Europe, Portugal, and I'm going to check the first level that is called districts and review the data here. So we have here Portugal. Oops, I put twice. I'm going to check the attribute tables. That means the basic structure for the regions here. I can see here that CCA, for example, have 2 codes to name the regions, and we have the regions called name 1. So we have the information here. The second, I'm going to add the second layer. Concelhos, and again the shed file. If you see, the information here is more detailed. Now for Concelhos, the same thing. We have an attribute tables. We have CCA2 that have the information of the region and the information of the Concelhos and the name for Oliveira, the Frades, Nelas, Penedono, another way. So we have the information here also for this. And finally, remember that this software here, my main use for the information here is only to check the information. And finally, freguesias. Freguesias, add, close. You see, we have the most detailed layer here. So again, attribute tables, and we have the cofre here, the first column, have the codes for the information, and we have in freguesia the name of the code. Very good. So everything is here. So back in the inventory, I want to close this. Back in this inventory, I can create now the information for Portugal. The first thing is manage levels. First level is in distritos. Very good. That is the name in Portuguese. In English is very useful, called in English, of course, the structure for international users. The second level means second number, level number 1 is called concelhos, that in English is counties. And the final level is freguesias, that in English is called parishes. Sorry if I mistranslate this version. Okay, save. So we have now levels. Now with those levels, we can manage the maps. So remember, our main format is a shed file format. Now I can select, oh, I have a intermediate step here that I missed. So in admin, I need to upload in my computer, in my server, the information for Portugal. So we have here in Portugal, And I prefer to upload everything in CET file, because if you see, if I select file by file, it could be a little bit tired. So the system will be decompress everything. I'm going to upload the maps for Portugal. And okay, very good. Now I can manage maps, select shed file, select my file. Remember that is level 0, districts, and select the shed file. In the codification, now remember that we check that CCA1 have the codification. I'm going to select this one, save. And for the names, the column name 1 have the names, save. So shed file for level 1, I'm going to use a layer, a gray color here. Select the level 1 to Concelos. And in CCA2 have the codification. Now again for name 0, 1, 2. Name 2 have the information for the name for the Concelos. Now again, in this case, we have 3 until 3 levels. I'm going to select another kind of gray here. Freguesias, Portugal. We have here the cofre has a code column, and Freguesia have the name. Remember that I'm going to check here. Remember to integrate. Remember that all this information is only for set up the database. I'm going to again click here on, this is a kind of glitch in this inventory. Sorry about that. Save again. And yes. Now I have here the structure for the information in Portugal. If I click here in Faro, in this region Faro, I can manage the counties for Faro. And if I click here, I can manage parish for this. So we create the whole structure for the geography. That's the idea. Now, if I click in analysis module, we have here districts. If I click someone, I can counties and parishes. And if I view map, you can see that we already have a map here to select the content. So we have now a basic structure to manage the database. So if you see here in data entry, now we can create a data card. We have districts, Faro, for example. Counties could be, I can select anyone, and Montenegro. And we have now a list of events. Before of create this field structure, it's good idea to review this list and select or create or even rename the events or the hazard list that the country have available. That is also could be complement uses the idea for Montenegro that Marcos presented before over the have a methodological manual specific for the country that have the information, for example, over these descriptions, or even in the if the country decide to create or delete some of these could be used. So that's the idea now to create and remain. Remember that I put here Portugal as a new database, and you have the structure for the database. Of course, we don't have any data yet here for this database, but we have at least the structure for the information. Very good. I think that we can accept a question of this process or even other process.
Okay, thank you, Mario. Now, I wanted to check with the participants if there is some questions after this demo that Mario just did now. So please feel free to unmute your microphones and make the questions directly.
Hello, Mario.
Hello, Mr. Abdullah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. It was much easier today, and thanks, special thanks to you and your whole team to give us the opportunity and taking the lecture from you second time. Almost it's clear inside the installation process, but uh, since in my country we haven't started disinventory yet, so there's few things which I was not understanding. Like, you started the administration process by saying that uh, local host. So how could I get that? Because in your basic information and data, those are all in local host. Uh, what do you, would you please clarify uh, how I can get into that? Number two, uh, UNDRR provided us for the trainees website www.training.disinventor.net. So through that, can I install this, the whole process you spoke today?
Very good. Thank you. Yes, understood. The main idea with using, I'm going to share again my screen. Clarify this. Here, in our previous session, the idea to create a local version is to play a little bit with the option for the databases. I create here, installing a software called ToT, and here in this software, I install a local version of the Disinventor. If you see, we can use training.disinventor.net here, and with the user, we have here another database that is used for training purposes with the credentials that we have here for Gary, for example. I have the opportunity here to create regions in the same way that I use locally. The only difference is that in this server, we don't have a kind of database as Postgres, for example. The only option here is create a Derby database, but at the end, you see here in the list of the database, all are Derby because it's only a database by files, and that's why we use this. But at the end, it's the same thing. You can create a local version here using Derby, or in your computer using Postgres or SQL Server. The idea is show the both worlds, and basically I think that in any case it is possible. The software is the same, so it's possible to create in any platform according with the database. Probably using kind of the Postgres database, Oracle, or SQL Server is according with your institution, or even with the database in that kind of system, it is possible to share the database and with another environment, or even with another software that that could be used in your institution. I don't know if it is clarify the 2 points.
Yes, yes, I got it.
Thank you. Maybe we will have more questions.
Yeah, in the text box, there is no questions, so we are just on the time. It is 10 a.m. here in Panama. I will hand over to Rahul. And thank you to everyone. Thank you, Mario, and thank you, Marco, for those very useful presentations.
Thank you, Carlos.
Before the
Thank
session,
you to everybody.
Mr. Marco, just I have one question for you. It was I couldn't say anything after your presentation. Your presentation was excellent. It was really a path. It was an eye opener for us, and Albania had to go through a very long process and a very tough process, I should rather say, to get into this inventor. And my special thanks to you for your presentation. And would you please give me your email, because it was so quick in the chat box. If you write down your email address, so I have some questions, I will contact you later on. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, sure. I'm available. Definitely. Thank you for the feedback. And definitely, I will write my email in the chat. And I guess, Carlos, if you want to circulate my presentation, this is also super fine.
Yes.
Fine with me. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think Rahul is coordinating the publication of the record of the presentation. Maybe there is a depository to put the PPT file onto. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone to participate today to the Coffee with Data, or Coffee with Desinventar, as Marco called it. And now I'll hand over to Rahul.
Thank you so much. I think the coffee with Disinventar was even stronger. You know, it was real double shot of espresso. So thank you. Kudos to Marco. As I can only echo what Abdullah said. Really, very, very insightful, and it really shows that, you know, the journey that you portrayed. And it's not about just the technology, but the journey that you portrayed from, you know, how countries have been recording data on papers and files, and from there to now what they are actually doing in a very a system that can actually give them very good statistics, can give them, you know, show the analytics and show and do comparatives with the global data set. I think that really hit the point very, very well. So thank you so much, Marco, for this. I will just take 1 minute to share, as always, the agenda where we are currently. I'm just trying to share my screen. If you can just give me a minute. So right now we were on the. Sorry, we're having a slide.
Yeah, you have to open the document.
Just so right now we are on the 27th. As you can see, I hope you can see our screen. Where we were on the Coffee with Data. So day after tomorrow, and we'll send you a reminder. And thank you so much for also looking at, you know, especially the time, because we just had a change of time over the weekend. So colleagues could join us in time, which we are very grateful for. And so on the 29th, we will start with a very concrete session on primary data collection, sharing, and quality control. this is something that, it will already build on what, Marco shared with us. This is really where the rubber hits the road. It's about the actual, and again, to again borrow Marco's terms, if this is not right, then it's garbage in and garbage out. So really the primary data collection will come through. You will see how what the experience has been, and it's not easy. It's just not easy, as I was mentioning in the previous session as well, that it's not about, data disaster related statistics is difficult, because it's not simple as population statistics or trade statistics or health related statistics, where at least you have a certain time interval within which, or a time period within which census is done, data is collected, analyzed, reports are written out. You are actually, in case of disasters, you're actually collecting data as the disaster happens. And as we know, there are protracted disasters which go on for long, and we are not, and as the lives are being saved, we are also collecting data. So it's obviously, life saving, early recovery, relief are the priorities there. But still, over time, there has been a good acknowledgement that, along with that, the data is also very important to have, so that there's decision making can be made on that, and risk reduction can be incorporated on that basis. So that's what we will look into in terms of the data collection, sharing, and the quality control, which is of most importance when it comes to the eventual analytics that a system like this Inventor provides us with. This other session, as you can see on Thursday, would be on the on the usability of the lost data. This is again extremely important, because as you can see, what are we doing this for? At the end of the day, this is really important for the decision making, and that's what we want to bring home. And this will be carried out by, again, we'll have partners coming in to make specific presentations on this. We will have partners like, to give you an idea, ECLAC from the Americas. ECLAC is our Economic Commission for the Latin American Caribbean region. They are the how to speak, the regional commission, the overall regional commission of the UN for the Americas and Caribbean region. So they have very good experience on this. They also have actually got a kind of pioneering experience on loss assessment methodology. It's world famous, the work of, most of you would know about DALA, which is the world's famous assessment tool that they had pioneered in the 1970s. So we will learn from them, and also from some other colleagues and partners who will be joining us. Thereafter, of course, then next Tuesday we'll have another coffee with data session. That's on the 3rd of November. By the way, we'll also have some presentation on loss and damage assessments in the climate field on the 29th, on the Thursday. So just watch out for this space. We have got some very exciting presentations coming up for Thursday, and then thereafter, as I said, the coffee with data session on Tuesday will kind of close our that part of the training which focuses on disaster loss accounting, and then we will move from thereafter. Next Thursday, on the 5th, we will move to Sendai framework monitoring. So this is what I wanted to share with you, and where we stand. One earnest request we have is for colleagues. You would have seen our messages that we are sending to you. We would like to remind you about the e-learning course of the UNDRR ADPC, Asian Disaster Preparedness Center's e-learning course. You will find our the web link that we had shared in the guidance note, and in the email reminders. We have got only about 10% of the colleagues having completed it, and having shared the certificate with us, because this is one more incentive. You will actually get a certificate on the e-learning course for Sendai framework monitoring. Apart from the fact that you'll get a certificate, I think it would be a very good advantage for you to have done that course, because then you will be able to get the maximum benefit of the training that we will start from the 5th of November. This will really help, because the background and the foundation will be set up, because in these sessions, it's not that we can do a huge lot of deep dive. You'll see that the session on the Sendai framework monitoring will be slightly different from how the disaster loss accounting accounting sessions are. They would be more on the structure, on the system itself. So when you've done an e-learning course, you will be able to build on that very well. So that's our earnest request, if you could do that and send in your certificates to our colleague Sandra. Sandra's email is in your inbox in the guidance note and also in the emails that we have been sending. So for day after tomorrow's 29th October session, that's the main session. That will be the third main session. We will send you a reminder tomorrow. We will send you the links again. We will provide you with some of the details of the kind of presenters who will be joining us on Thursday. I will close here, but before that, if there are any questions in general about our session today, any feedback, anything positive, negative, anything that you'd like to share with us, we'll be very grateful. As you can see, we are trying our best to respond to the feedback, just like we heard that there could be an interest for having some more session on the technical part. We tried to bring that in, and we'll be open to doing some more of this as the wherever feasible. Of course, we will try our best to kind of incorporate that feedback from you. So really looking forward to that, and anything that you think we could improve, we'll be grateful to hear. So the floor is open. Any questions that you'd like to share, either in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and ask the questions. Thank you so much.
Ondas sagradas do Tejo, deixa-me beijar as tuas águas, deixa-me dar-te um beijo de mágoa, um beijo de saudade, para levar ao mar e o mar à minha terra, para levar ao mar e o mar à minha terra.
Minha terra é aquele que é pequenino, é Cabo Verde, aquele que é de meio, terra que na mar parece um menino, é filho de oceano, é filho de céu, terra de minha mãe, terra de minha cresceu.
Nas tuas ondas cristalinas, deixa-me dar-te um beijo, na tua boca de menina, deixa-me dar-te um beijo ao Tejo.
Um beijo de mágoa, um beijo de saudade, para vou levar mar, para mar, levar a minha terra,
para levar ao mar e o mar à minha terra.
As ondas cristalinas, deixa-me dar um beijo
na tua boca de menina, deixa-me dar-te um beijo, oh, um beijo de mágoa,
um beijo de saudade, para vou levar-me, levar a minha terra,
para levar ao mar e o mar à minha terra.
Vou levar mar, levar minha terra,
para levar ao mar e o mar à minha terra.
jogador. Do jogador.
Die DFV-Tierversicherung, denn seine Fürsorge verdient dein...
Estou em biquíni, não tinha dinheiro, carro também não. Víamos a pé, fizemos serão. Como é que eu hei de, como é que eu hei de?
Sendai Framework for Disaster